Well, it's almost Mother's Day,
and we decided to make some delicious, beautiful sugar cookies to bring to our family event.
so stay tuned and follow along. Although our family already has a delicious sugar cookie recipe that we got from Grandma Edna, we can't find it. So
we've gone ahead and gone to Pinterest and found a delicious no-chill sugar cookie recipe from Katrina's Kitchen.
First step is to take 1 cup of room temperature butter and put it in your mixer bowl.
Next, we're going to take 1 cup of sugar and add it. And then we're going to cream this until it's smooth in our KitchenAid mixer. That's about 3 minutes. Now that our sugar and butter has creamed together, we're going to add in a 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and an egg.
Next, in a separate bowl, we're gonna put 3 cups of flour.
Next up, add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And a 1/2 teaspoon of salt.
Next, combine with a whisk.
After all the ingredients are combined, you're going to add a little bit at a time to your KitchenAid mixer bowl.
With all the wet ingredients. Once your dough has come together, go ahead and finish kneading it by hand by putting it on a floured surface. If your dough looks too dry or stiff, you can actually wet your hands and continue to knead the dough until it becomes the consistency that you like.
This looks pretty good. So she's going to divide this into 2 or 3 separate pieces, and then we're going to roll it out with our pin and cut it into the shape that we desire.
Okay, I've got my 3 different sections, and remember, you do not chill this dough. Before you roll out your dough, don't forget to preheat your oven to 350.
Here I go.
Now, wait, I'm trying. You know what I'm saying? Now on a well-floured surface, go ahead and roll out your dough to a 1/4 inch, what was it? A 1/4 inch thickness. So don't roll your dough and cut your shapes to a 1/4 inch thickness. Roll your dough out to a 1/4 inch thickness and then cut it. Okay. Now on a well-floured surface.
Now on a well-floured surface, you're going to roll out your dough into about a 1/4 inch of thickness. You want these cookies to be a little bit thicker than typical sugar cookies. Then you can go ahead and cut out your shapes.
I like to smush mine out with my hand a little bit and then take my rolling pin and start working the dough in every which direction. And remember, this dough does need to stay a little bit thicker than some other recipes call for. It needs to be about a 1/4 inch thick, and this looks perfect. So now I'm gonna cut out the shape. Today, we're gonna be using 2 different heart shapes because we love our mothers. Now we're gonna place these cookies onto an ungreased cookie sheet. Sometimes they break. And continue gathering your dough up and rolling it out.
These cookies are ready to go into the oven. I'm going to place them in there for 6 to 8 minutes or until they're just lightly golden. Our Our timer just went off, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull these cookies out. We went ahead and baked them for 10 minutes. Each oven can be a little bit different, so just make sure you're checking that they are cooking evenly and getting golden brown on the bottom. Those smell delicious. Now I'm gonna put in this last tray. I wanna point out that with any leftover dough, you can just make this turd-shaped cookie to nibble on before you start decorating.
Our cookies are out of the oven and we now have them cooling on a rack and they're all sliding off. And so after they're completely cooled, and sometimes it's even best to leave them overnight, that way they firm up really well, but at least a couple of hours, and then you can go ahead and ice them with whichever royal icing of your choice. And we're gonna do that in a while if you stay tuned.
But in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and try this turd-shaped cookie and see how we like Katrina's Kitchen's sugar cookie recipe. Here we go, just like a chicken wing.
Oh, both at the same time?
I thought we were gonna break it like a this. That's even better. You got the bigger half.
I won.
Oh, okay.
Let me
I
think
think
of
it's
it.
gonna be good with a lot of frosting on it.
In the
Recipe.
comments of this recipe, some people commented that it's more of a shortbread than a sweet sugar cookie. Like it has more of that flavor, and I would agree.
I actually like the aftertaste quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It is more shortbready, but it's not softer, not as crumbly as a shortbread cookie, maybe.
It's very good. I really, really like it just like it is, but with the addition of royal icing, it'll be perfect. So stay tuned.
That's one.
We're back and it's the next day. We have let our cookies sit out for a few hours last night, and then we put them in a nice airtight container so that they don't get too dry, and they turned out really, really nice. If you look here, you can see about how thick these are. Remember, they're a little bit thicker than some sugar cookies, and we decided that these taste fantastic.
We're gonna go ahead and use a royal icing recipe that we found on Pinterest, and we're gonna make some pretty pastel colors to decorate our cookies.
Let's get started. In your stand mixer or a large bowl with the hand mixer, go ahead and put the following ingredients in.
2 pounds of powdered sugar.
That's one of these large bags of powdered sugar. It says on the bottom 2 pounds.
Ouch, damn. Who invented this, Mr. Wilton?
In true mother's form, we're actually making these on Mother's Day now because a mother's work is never done.
A 1/2 cup meringue powder. A cup of water minus 1 tablespoon.
That's 1/2 cup, sweetheart. I'm gonna leave a little bit out, a little more. Okay, we can always add more.
2 to 3 drops of your oil-free flavoring. We are going to use pure vanilla flavoring.
2 to 3 drops.
Let's just eyeball that. Yummo.
All right, we have all of our ingredients in our bowl, and we're gonna bring it over to the stand mixer and get it mixing. Be sure to start on low so your powdered sugar doesn't fly everywhere. And then set your timer for 4 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and check and see if we have stiff peaks. I'd say those are pretty stiff. They're standing up nice and straight. If they were flopping too much when you hold them upright, then you would need to mix it a little bit longer. We want stiff peaks. And I think that's pretty darn close. Well, that one looks a little sad. Maybe 1 more minute. Okay, we've mixed it for an additional minute and they're very stiff. So this is exactly what we want. This took us about 5 minutes.
And I always like a nice stiff one.
When you make royal icing, you usually make it to the stiff form, which we just did, but you can add more water to it to make it a little runnier to fill in your cookie, which is the easiest method. But if you want to reserve some of the stiffer frosting, just grab a bowl and put some aside. And we're gonna do that because the stiffer icing is really great for piping on flowers and details like that. So I think that this is probably more than enough.
And the nice part about this is that you can store it in an airtight container just on your counter and it will last up to a week. So it's always good to save a little bit and then you can just throw together cookies and let the kids go at it.
Another thing to keep in mind is this dries out really quickly. So because we're using this a little bit later, we need to cover it with saran wrap. And then we're gonna add a little bit more water, about a teaspoon at a time, to this mixture and keep on blending it on the stand mixer until we get a, I think they call it flood-like consistency. All right, we have our icing to the consistency that we needed. And so now we're gonna use these bowls to separate the icing so we can dye them the color that we need. All right, we have all of our frosting dyed and we put them into pastry bags that I ordered a couple of years ago on Amazon, and it came with a lot of bags and it was well worth it. And so make sure you put an apron on. If you're me, you'll put a child's apron on. And because you don't want to stain your clothes. And so the next step is that we are going to take the ends of the bags and just cut the tiniest little bit off of there. And you can always cut more, but you want to start with the tiniest little snippet so that your frosting will come through. And so now we're going to move over to the table where we can sit down and relax and put the cookies out in front of us on a plate and just go to town decorating.
And my husband knows the way to any mother's heart. He went by McDonald's and got us our favorite drinks. Coke for me
and Diet Coke for me.
Cheers.
Bottoms up. Okay, we've got this step of the cookies done, so we are going to let them dry out for a little while. So we just got done piping flowers in a spiral shape, very simple, with our stiff consistency icing. And they're darling. Here's a helpful little tip. If you don't have enough time to let these cookies sit out for hours to dry and harden, you can preheat your oven to about 120 degrees and then turn it off. Put your cookies on cookie sheets and place them in the oven with the light on as well and let them sit for about 15 minutes. Your icing will harden up.
Well, there you have it. We're all finished up.
We think that they turned out so lovely and it was a really fun activity. We hope that you guys will give it a try.
Happy Mother's Day.
Today and every day.
Love you.
I don't know why I had a kiss.
That was good.
Okay.